Are you looking to bring up a specific muscle group, perhaps that's lagging? If so, this video is for you. When it comes to lagging muscles, there can be a couple different reasons for this. The first is genetics. We're certainly gifted to build certain muscle groups and other muscle groups not so much. The second reason is that we can inherently just not like to train certain muscles, and so we neglect them. Now, in this video, we're going to go over 5 quick tips on bringing up lagging muscle groups. Now, number one, and most important, is to prioritize that muscle. Now, if you're looking to bring up or grow your calves, for example, you're going to do those exercises at the beginning of the week and at the beginning of the exercise. And this is really important. When we prioritize something, we are putting our attention on it after our warm up when we're most fresh. We are doing the exercises that are going to help us bring that muscle up and build it. So prioritization is really, really important. So if your goal is to bring up your calves and you are waiting until your end of the workout to do calf exercises and then you're half-heartedly going through some calf raises, you're not going to grow them. And I can say that from personal experience. Number 2, exercise selection. Are you doing effective exercises that are going to directly impact the muscles you're trying to bring up? Now, this goes for compound movements, which are your multi-joint movements, your isolation, or your single joint movements. So exercise selection is really key here. So in addition to putting those exercises at the beginning of your workout, you're making sure to do the exercises that you feel the most and make you sore and make you really target that specific area. Super important. And I will say, as an aside, if you don't like the exercise, that's typically the exercise you want to do. So the more you dislike something, not saying that it causes pain, but if you just don't like to do that exercise, it's typically going to be an effective one for you. Sorry to break the news to you on that one. Okay, number 3, we must talk about frequency. So it's not enough to do the exercise once per week or to prioritize once per week. Really looking at 2 to 3 times per week, depending on the muscle. Now, if you're looking at something like hamstrings, for example, they typically are going to take a lot longer to recover than some other muscle groups. So you might be okay with twice a week on that one. You're not going to hammer them 3 times a week. You're just not going to be able to recover. But other muscle groups like shoulders, for example, or back, you might be able to get away with 3 times per week. And of course, going back to number 1 and number 2, making sure to prioritize that muscle group at the beginning of your workout and choosing those effective exercises. So now we've built in frequency. Now, along the lines of frequency, we also have to talk about volume. Now, volume is just the number of sets that you're doing per week. And typically, if you're only training something once per week, you're going to try to jam in all of that volume into 1 week or 1 day per week. And this is just not going to be effective because what's going to happen is about halfway through the workout, you're just going to check out mentally and possibly physically as well, which can equate to junk volume. And you've just annihilated that muscle and you are doing reps for the sake of doing reps, and it's not going to get you anywhere. A better option is to take that volume and spread it out over the week into 2 or 3 sessions. So you are super fresh, you are focused, you are in the muscle with every single rep, and you are performing it with precision. You're getting close to failure, you're not coming to failure. So really important to leave a few reps in reserve and just make sure you're pushing yourself, that those last few reps are difficult but doable. So we look at volume. Typically on average, you're looking at 10 to 20 sets per week. Now this is just on average. This is what they call kind of the optimal range. So if you're just starting out and building, you may want to err on the side of that 10 sets per week, right? So you're able to build in your progression, and we're going to get to that. But you want to start out with what's called the minimum effective volume for your muscle group. And this is going to help you to not only build in progression, but to not get so sore because when you first start out and you're trying to build a muscle group, if you just absolutely annihilate it on day one, when it comes to, day 3 or day 4, when you're about to train it again, if you're super sore, you're just not going to be able to train. So that's why we want to start with the least effective amount of volume and build from there. And this also goes to your primary exercises. So, if we're looking at something like shoulders, you're looking at your shoulder press, your upright rows, your lateral raises, but you're also looking at exercises that, maybe bringing shoulders into it. So your secondary exercises, you would just be aware of those. I wouldn't necessarily count those towards your sets per week, but just understand that if I'm doing a high row, for example, I'm also going to be hitting those rear delts. If I'm doing push-ups, for example, I'm going to be hitting the front delts as well. So you're still stimulating the muscle throughout the week in your other muscle groups. Now, progression, which we sort of talked about, but all this is a slight increase per week in your training block. And your training block can be 8 to 12 weeks, for example. So you're going to start with week 1. You're going to start with the least amount of volume. You're going to start with some lower weights, lower amount of volume, and you're going to build up from there. I'm not saying you're going to go baby weights on the first week, but you want to start out with something that's going to challenge you just a little bit, but you want to give yourself room to be able to build from there. And typically speaking, a 5 to 10% increase in the amount of volume you do each week, and or a 5 to 10% increase in the amount of weight that you're doing each week. So you don't necessarily have to go up in weight and volume each week, but what you can think about doing is just that 5 to 10% increase in weight or volume. And this is going to help continue to challenge your body, because the body's amazingly adaptive. And if we don't continue to add little stressors here and there, your body is just going to adjust and adapt, and you're going to plateau. And this is what can happen if you don't build in progression. Okay, now, as a bonus, you may want to look up that specific muscle group. So shoulders, for example, they're about a 50-50 split between fast twitch and slow twitch. And your muscles can vary. So you do have a different amount of fast twitch versus slow twitch. And fast twitch is just your muscle fibers that are used for sprinting and lifting heavy weights. This is typically either heavy, low reps, or fast movements. And these are typically the muscle fibers that decrease as we age. So it's important that we give some attention to that. So you want to make sure that you're varying your rep ranges. And so for shoulders, for example, you may want to do heavy shoulder press on a machine, something where you can spot yourself, something where you've got, some safety involved there, but you're able to push it, right? Or you can do something like a push press or a push jerk, which is a little bit more explosive, working fast twitch. On the other side of things, we want to look to our endurance fibers, which are our slow twitch fibers. And we want to stimulate both because we really want to maximize that muscle growth. So what we're looking at is low reps, heavy weight for fast twitch, and higher reps at lower weights, doing a little bit more in terms of supersets or compound sets, for example, towards the end of the workout. And this is going to help give you that beautiful pump in the shoulders, if that's what you're really looking to bring up, but also allowing you to really work on both muscle fiber types. And when you're doing this, you're going to develop the muscles beautifully, but you're also thinking about your overall systemic health and your central nervous system. So if you're lifting heavy, low reps all the time, every single day, then you're going to probably tax that central nervous system. Whereas if you're tossing in some of this higher rep, lighter weight, pump type working out, then you're also able to stimulate the muscle without really frying that central nervous system. So we have to look at overall recovery as well. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is there something I missed? And is there something that has worked for you, for example? I know for me, my calves were always lagging. And then when I looked at it, I was just doing calf raises randomly throughout the week at the end of my workouts. and I wasn't employing any kind of advanced techniques. So that's something else to look at is, you know, if it's something like calves that you really want to grow, understand that yes, a lot of it is genetics, but a lot of it is that we are walking around all the time. So we're using those calves, we're always stimulating those muscles. So you have to do something a little bit different. You know, think about your pause reps, think about, you know, holding at that mid-rep point, think about the cues you're using, and really think outside of the box when it comes to bringing up some of these muscles, especially something that perhaps you've been working on for a long time. And that's one more thing. If you've been working on something for a long time, be careful to not overdo it, right? So if you haven't taken a deload, if you are just hammering that muscle and you are hammering it, you know, 4 times a week, you might be overdoing it. So you might be on the other side of the spectrum, which I don't think is as common, but you can actually cause more damage because you're just essentially not allowing that muscle to recover at all. You know, you've still incurred damage from lifting because lifting creates those micro tears, right? And then you're going in and lifting on top of that. So you're just damage. And, you know, obviously that's not going to lead to growth. All right, that's it for this time. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and let me know what you would like to see next. We're gonna start doing some upper body stuff, some training around injury content as well. I have a couple more weeks on crutches, non-weight bearing, so I'm a bit limited to what I can do, but definitely here for you guys and want to help you out and support you in reaching those goals. And if you're looking for a progression-based program, be sure to check out my website. FlexFit is still 20% off for YouTube members, and that is the voiceover video instruction, and it's 3 to 6 days per week. All right, that's it for this time. Train smart, train hard, y'all. I love you, and keep going, keep moving towards the direction of your goals. Remember that everything on earth has been thought about twice. Once up here, and then another time when you actually manifest it. So it goes through those 2 rounds of creation. So if you can think it up here and you can see it in perfect clarity, then you know that you can manifest it. So go get them.